Shabbat Shalom to everyone. It's a pleasure to see you. Hope everyone has enjoyed their Thanksgiving weekend. And as we bring Thanksgiving to a close, we read Parshat Toldot, moving us from the second to the third generation of our Jewish lineage, which includes the birth of the twins, to Isaac and Rebekah. Being unable to conceive, for many years, Isaac prays to God to intervene on behalf of his wife. But however, once Rebekah is pregnant, she knows that something is not right. The Torah tells us immediately that the children struggled within her womb. Just remember for a moment, Rebekah moved away from her family. She had never even had the chance to meet her mother-in-law, and Abraham, her father-in-law, has already passed away. Alone, the only person she has to turn to is her husband, and she has no idea what is happening inside of her body. She has no other family members to turn to at this challenging time, and without any other options, she turns to God for an explanation. This tradition, though, has made its way throughout Judaism for many years. Because in fact, when the Hasidim of Eastern Europe in the 18th and 19th centuries could not understand something, they turned to their spiritual leader, the Rebbe, to hopefully provide them with an answer. The belief in Hasidism is that the Rebbe would be able to provide the spiritual guidance to lead his followers, and then they devoted great respect and admiration to their Rebbe. There's a story of a great Rebbe who made his way to a small village for the very first time. It was told by the villagers that we heard the Rebbe was coming. What excitement! You must understand. This was not an everyday experience. We are a small village, far, far, far from the home of the Rebbe. Once, the Moel in our town had gone to visit the Rebbe and ask a question about a sick little boy. But for the rest of us, we waited and we dreamed for the day when the Rebbe would come. The night before he arrived, none of us could sleep. We tossed and turned, urging the sun to rise up the next morning, so we could race out and see the Rebbe, because he would have all of the answers to all of our questions. We couldn't wait any longer. We lined the streets far out of the village, even past the last farm, looking and waiting for any sign of his arrival. Some of the children of the village had never ventured this far from home. Finally there was a sign, horses and a carriage, way out in the distance. It was true! The Rebbe was finally here. We barely dared to look. Then, as if a conductor had suddenly raised his baton, we all burst upon the Rebbe upon his arrival, flooding him with questions that we'd held inside for days, for months, for even years. Rebbe, why can't we have children? Rebbe, why is my little one so sick? Rebbe, just tell us, when is the Messiah coming? Is it soon? Rebbe, oh Rebbe! A never-ending stream of questions. Why didn't this happen? Rebbe, why did this happen in our lives? We knew the Rebbe would have all answers to all of our questions. But instead, the Rebbe just smiled. He listened, he put his hand out, and he said, wait, just wait a moment. First, we must eat something. So we waited. The horses and the carriage made its way into the center of the town, and we all went to watch the Rebbe eat. Occasionally, the excitement of watching him eat was too much to bear, and one of us would begin, but Rebbe, "But Rebbe, why?" But the Rebbe would just smile and wait, nod his head, and then in the softest voice say, "Not yet." Finally, the Rebbe finished eating. The time had come. The Rebbe would answer all of our questions now. We opened our mouths just to get ready. But just as we were about to ask, the Rebbe put up his hand and he said, "First, we must sing a nigun, a wordless melody." "First we must sing," he said. Well, if the Rebbe says we must sing, so we're going to sing. And the Rebbe began a nigun, and it was a new melody for all of us. But years later, legends arose that the Rebbe actually composed that nigun on the spot. But we all learned it, and we joined in singing over and over. The Rebbe closed his eyes, he began to sway, and sing he did. So we closed our eyes, and we all sang the Rebbe's nigun with them. I don't know how long we sang. In fact, nobody quite remembers how long we sang. Some say that it was an hour. Some say it was hours. And some say that we sang the nigun through the entire night. Our eyes were closed. We swayed with the Rebbe. We all drifted into the world of the nigun, far, far, far away from our little village. And then the Rebbe's voice began to slow down. We opened our eyes. The Rebbe looked up, and he paused and asked, "Any questions?" We sat there. No one could move. There was not one question from any of us in attendance. The Rebbe had answered all of our questions. I love this story, especially in relationship to Rebecca, who had so many questions of what was going on, and yet she felt incredibly helpless and alone. And this story gives us so many valuable lessons. A nigun, this wordless melody that they sang for who knows how long, is meant to help us connect deeply to God, especially we don't have the words to express our feelings. Sometimes the words actually get in the way of our thoughts and our feelings. The melody without words allows us to connect to each other and to God without any barriers. The Rebbe's nigun served as a prayer, and it changed those who were present that day. It gave them an answer to all of their questions, their deepest, longest questions of life, and it did so without a single word being said. The Rebbe changed their perception. Abraham Joshua Heschel often taught that prayer is the service of the heart, avodat lev, allowing us to do the work inside of our bodies. Throughout our service, especially on Friday nights, we sing a number of nigunim, but the way the Rebbe sang them was different than how most of us come to know a nigun. There was no set end. The melody would continue as long as somebody in the room maintained the feeling to sing it through once again. If you were present a few years ago, when we brought in an artist in residence named Joey Weissenberg, we had this experience right there in our hallway. Over and over again, we sang the same melody without a set end time. We got lost in the song, and we allowed this melody to penetrate our souls. And I could tell you the same thing. I don't know if we sang for 30 minutes, an hour, or 2 hours, but the effect was the same. There's another lesson in this story, and it's often that we rush through life. And a weekend like this allows us to pause and slow down every once in a while. So often in life, when a question arises, we seek an answer immediately. For many of us, living with any type of uncertainty is a challenge. The Rebbe delayed and delayed, teaching the village that they in fact did not need their questions answered immediately. Instead, he modeled that if one pauses, allowing themselves to slow down and truly reflect, the answer is often present. Most of us connect with prayer by running away from it, thinking of it as a burden, something that we must do or we don't even connect with. But instead, I want you to take it with this mentality. What if it's really 3 times a day, a chance to pause, reflect, and allow ourselves to find clarity? The answers will often follow them. We don't need someone else to tell us the answer. Rather, we just have to slow down, pause, and allow ourselves to find the answer that's right there. We just have to look for it. Over the next day or so before the busyness of the holiday season really kicks into gear, the craziness of school and work overtakes us again. Remember the lesson of the Rebbe and of Rebecca. Find time to pray. But don't just pray because you have to. Pray to slow down. Do it without a time limit. Allow the words or a melody without any words to penetrate your soul, connecting with God. You'll appreciate it, and the answers to life's biggest questions will be answered just with more clarity and time. Shabbat Shalom.